A mysterious giant eye suddenly appeared in the sky, but I'm the only one who can't see it. People all over the street were pointing at the sky, their faces filled with a mixture of fear and curiosity. Did you see that eye? I think it just blinked again. I followed everyone's gaze, but there was nothing there. Besides the blue sky and white clouds, there was just that damn sun. So I had to pretend I could see it too, mimicking their tone to chime in. I think it's staring right at me. Just then, a passerby tapped me on the shoulder. Buddy, you're kidding, right? The eye was clearly looking towards the north side of the city just now. My name is Shin Yuan. I'm just your average, miserable office worker. Before the giant eye appeared, my life was so dull it barely made a ripple. But now, I'm an outcast. I wouldn't dare tell anyone I can't see the giant eye. My gut told me the consequences would be disastrous, so I just shut up and tried to look thoughtful. I'd prick up my ears to eavesdrop on what others were saying. The eye looks a little red today. Is it angry? The pupil seems to have gotten bigger again. Something big is definitely about to happen. Look, even the clouds are moving around it. Whenever this kind of situation came up, I would just nod in agreement. I just say some nonsense like, yeah, you're right, or, it's hard to say. My life felt like walking a tightrope over a cliff, with countless fanatical eyes staring up from below. That night, my mom called me. Son, quick, turn on the news. That eyeball is a higher dimensional being. It's a miracle that comes once in a millennium. It's observing us, selecting us. Hearing the excitement in my mother's voice, my heart sank. Mom, you can't believe that stuff. That eyeball is not so simple. Son, you need to remember this. It's an honor to be watched by a god. You must pray to it every single day. Let the gods see your devotion. And with that, she hung up. I walked out to the balcony and stared into the pitch-black night sky. There was nothing there, but I knew that on the retinas of the world's 7 billion people, a giant eye was permanently etched. An unprecedented sense of dread washed over me. Was I abandoned by God, or was I the only one who hadn't been brainwashed? As the days passed, more and more people began to gaze up at the sky. These people were like puppets, worshipping the giant eye in the sky in unison every day. Then, changes slowly started to appear in them. The first person it happened to was Yue, my colleague in the next cubicle. She used to be a girl who really cared about her looks, her desk always piled high with makeup. But suddenly, one day, she stopped wearing makeup at all. What's more, her face was completely devoid of human expression. She could stare out the window at the sky for a whole afternoon. I cautiously asked her what was wrong. I'm listening to the gods' teachings. Can't you hear them? Her voice was completely flat, without a hint of inflection. Afraid of my own secret being discovered, I quickly nodded and said I could hear them too. After that, Yue never came to work again. I asked a friend in HR about her, and they told me she had quit. I tried calling Yue, but the call just wouldn't go through. So I went to her apartment to look for her. I knocked for a long time, but there was no answer. Her next-door neighbor peeked his head out and said he hadn't seen her for days. As soon as I heard that, I quickly pulled out my phone to call the police. Half an hour later, the police came and pried open Yue's door. I found all their things in the room, but the person had vanished into thin air. Soon, I realized more and more people around me were disappearing. First, it was Yue. Then, it was old man Wang who sold watermelons downstairs. Finally, it was the ladies who did square dancing downstairs. They were all the most devout believers of that eye. As more and more people disappeared, people's view of the giant eye turned from worship to fear. So, the officials had to issue a statement. It said that the people who disappeared were chosen by God and had gone to live in a better, new world. As soon as this statement was released, people's fear of the giant eye vanished completely. Countless people began to cheer. You could see people kneeling and worshipping the giant eye everywhere on the streets. They couldn't wait to be chosen themselves. I looked at their distorted faces, and my heart grew cold. This didn't look like ascension. It was clearly a sacrifice. That giant eye was like a greedy monster, devouring this world step by step. And I was just a piece of food it hadn't noticed yet. But that was only temporary, because the screening for the non-devout had begun. One day, my company organized a group physical, but the location was in a building on the outskirts of the city. There wasn't even any medical equipment, just a single chair placed in the middle of the room. There was something like a camera installed on the ceiling. We were told to go in one by one, to receive the so-called baptism of holy light. I knew exactly what was going on. This was a screening test. Soon, it was my turn for this baptism. I forced myself to sit in the chair. Then, a cold, mechanical voice sounded. Test beginning. Please gaze into the eye of God. I looked up, and the device on the ceiling lit up with a white light. My heart was pounding in my throat. I desperately tried to recall the details of the giant eye that my colleagues had described. Suddenly, I realized, the device was scanning my reaction. As long as my reaction looked like I was witnessing a miracle, I could definitely get through this. Although I'd never seen a miracle, I had seen spectacular sights. I started frantically recalling my most thrilling experiences. My first time skydiving, bungee jumping, watching a horror movie alone in the middle of the night. My heart rate soared, and my breathing became rapid. I stared intently at that white light, as if I were truly seeing some cosmic wonder. Time crawled by, second by second. Just when I couldn't keep the act up any longer, that cold voice spoke again. Test complete. Devotion level, moderate. Go back and strengthen your prayers. I breathed a sigh of relief. Even though the evaluation was average, at least I'd managed to fool them. I guess I'm a natural actor. Afterward, I went back to the entrance of the building. Most of my colleagues had ecstatic looks on their faces. Only a few of them looked ashen-faced, just like me. Their eyes were darting around. We glanced at each other. We confirmed that we were the same kind. Normal people in this insane world, trying our best to act insane. From that day on, I started keeping a close watch on those of my kind. We didn't dare speak openly. We could only confirm our identities in the most discreet ways. For example, when everyone else was looking up at the sky, I'd pretend to answer a phone call. When others discussed the eye's color, I'd change the subject and ask what was for dinner. We were like a pack of rats hiding in the shadows, and Zhang Wei was one of them. He's a programmer at the company, a quiet, chubby guy. After the physical that day, I saw the fear in his eyes. So I found a chance to corner him in the break room. The clouds are really white today. I said it casually, but his body visibly flinched. Then he cautiously glanced around and lowered his voice. Yeah, so white you can't see a thing. The code matched. That night, we arranged to meet in an underground bar. Only a place this noisy and dark would offer the best cover. You can't see it either? I nodded. He let out a long sigh of relief. It was as if a huge weight had been lifted from his shoulders. I thought I was the only one. I was about to go crazy. My wife and kids talk about that eye every single day. They even call me impious, saying I'll be forsaken by God. I don't dare tell them the truth. I'm afraid they'll treat me like a monster. I patted his shoulder. I know the feeling. Xin Yuan, what in the world is going on? Are we sick, or has the whole world gone mad? I don't know, but we can't just sit back and wait. We have to do something. But what can we do? Right now, we're just two blind men. But it's precisely because we're blind that we can see the truth. Where did the people who disappeared really go? What exactly is that eye? What does it want? We have to find out the answers to all this. Otherwise, sooner or later, we'll end up just like them. Alright, I'm in, and with that, I had him use his technical skills to search for others like us, and also to dig up information on the eye. Meanwhile, I was in charge of finding clues in the real world. I soon discovered that the divine miracle first appeared 3 months ago, and it happened almost simultaneously all over the globe. People claimed to have seen the sky eye. At first, it was only a very small number of people. They were dismissed as lunatics and locked up in psychiatric hospitals. But soon, more and more people started seeing it. And that first group of people who saw it, all of them vanished without a trace. A few days later, Zhang Wei, using an encrypted channel, made contact with a dozen others like us. They came from all walks of life. A university professor, a middle-aged truck driver, and even a nurse from a psychiatric hospital. We set up a chat room codenamed the Rat Swarm. In the Rat Swarm, for the first time, we didn't feel so alone. Everyone was talking about their fears and the pressure they were under. In the hospital where I work, the first group of patients who saw the eye, they all vanished at once on a rainy night. The security footage looks completely normal, but somehow it didn't capture how they left. I was driving a night route, and there was a giant eye on a billboard by the road. The pupil actually moved right in front of me and stared right at my truck. I was scared out of my wits. I slammed on the gas and almost drove into a ditch. This giant eye symbol has appeared many times throughout history. Every time this thing shows up, it's accompanied by mass disappearances, followed by the complete collapse of a civilization. This is no divine miracle. It's clearly a cyclical harvest. After the professor typed that line, the chat room fell deathly silent. We were like ripe crops on a farm. When the time comes, we'll be harvested. We have to find the source of this thing. It must have a physical form, or a control center. I'm already sifting through global data for anomalies, energy fluctuations, electromagnetic interference. I investigated every single lead, started looking into the first people who went missing, to see if there were any common threads in their lives. The people in our group had clear roles, and the investigation expanded quickly. Soon, I zeroed in on the first person in the city who claimed to have seen the eye. His name was Li Weidong, a retired physics teacher. He was committed to an asylum 3 months ago, and died 2 weeks later. I paid a doctor for his medical records and personal effects. His file had only one sentence, repeated over and over. That eye is watching us. Among his belongings was a worn-out notebook, filled with densely packed physics formulas. I couldn't make heads or tails of it, so I took photos and sent them to the professor in our group. The professor's reply sent a chill down my spine. These are star charts and orbital calculation formulas. He was calculating the trajectory of an object from outside our solar system. According to these calculations, the object entered Earth's gravitational field 3 months ago. Its final destination should be Earth's Lagrange L2 point. That's the most gravitationally stable location, and also the best surveillance post in the entire universe. The eye was most likely lurking there. This discovery got our blood pumping. We had finally found the monster's lair, but then came the next problem. That place is 1.5 million kilometers from Earth. How are we supposed to get there? And even if we could, how would we take it down? Just then, Zhang Wei sent a message, we don't necessarily have to go there. If it's a piece of high technology, it must be transmitting signals back to Earth. If we can intercept its frequency, we might find a way to control it. Can you do it? It'll be difficult, but I can try. I'll need the processing power of a supercomputer, plus a giant dish that can receive deep space signals. A place immediately came to my mind, the National Astronomical Observatory. It has the largest radio telescope in Asia, but it's a high-security government facility. How can ordinary people like us get in? Maybe we can turn someone on the inside. I know someone, an engineer on the Sky Eye project. He's been recently ostracized by his family and colleagues because he can't see the eye. We might be able to get him on our side. This was a life-or-death gamble. If we lost, we would all be exposed. But we had no other choice. So, through an introduction from the nurse, I met the engineer, Joe Hao. At first, he was extremely guarded. He didn't believe a word I said, so I laid out all the evidence I had gathered. I told him we weren't crazy, we just wanted to live knowing the truth. Joe Hao finally agreed to help. He became our mole inside the Sky Eye project. And with his covert help, Zhang Wei began infiltrating their backend data. As for me, I continued searching for a lucky break in the real world, visiting the homes of more missing people. I pored over countless files, but still came up with nothing. The missing were from all walks of life, as if they were being chosen at random. There was no pattern whatsoever. Just as I was about to lose hope, Zhang Wei had a breakthrough. He had intercepted an extremely bizarre signal. I opened the audio file. A burst of ethereal and desolate wailing crashed directly into my head. The sound was like something from the deep sea. I couldn't understand it, but I felt a piercing pain in my heart. The professor said this frequency is very similar to a blue whale's call, possibly the language of some advanced life form. In the following days, we discovered this audio was playing on a loop. It was broadcast for all of humanity to hear, but only that giant eye could understand it. Meanwhile, the miracles outside were getting more and more absurd. People all over the streets claimed they heard God speaking in their ears. They knelt and bowed frantically on the roadsides, muttering incessantly. Their expressions were as fanatical as if they were on drugs. I knew they were hearing that whale song. And so, we blind people also became deaf. Panic gradually spread among our small group. That day, Zhang Wei called me, his voice filled with despair. That eye seems to be upgrading its screening process. First seeing, now hearing. Is brainwashing next? My son asked me today, Dad, why can't you hear God speak? Is it because you don't love us anymore? My parents also look at me like I'm a monster. Xin Yuan, when are we ever going to get through this? Soon. It must be in the next day or two, I said through gritted teeth into the phone. After hanging up, I looked out the window at the empty sky. I suddenly realized a fatal problem. Why is it that only we can neither see nor hear it? What do we all have in common? So, I wrote down everyone's information on a blackboard. I tried to find that hidden connection, pulling an all-nighter. I still came up with nothing. In despair, I picked up my phone. I wanted to ask everyone in the group chat. The moment I unlocked the screen, I froze completely. The screen showed a photo of me and my mom. In the photo, I was wearing a pair of black-rimmed glasses. Could it be the glasses? At that thought, I shot to my feet. Zhang Wei is severely nearsighted. He wears thick-lensed glasses every day. The professor is farsighted. The nurse is nearsighted too. I immediately sent a message to the group chat. Are all of you nearsighted? The chat room was silent for a few seconds. Then, messages started flooding in. I'm nearsighted with astigmatism. I've worn contact lenses since I was a kid. I'm severely nearsighted. It's hereditary. Does being farsighted count? All of our eyes have a physiological defect. Could this monster's screening criterion actually be eyesight? But there are tons of nearsighted people in the world. Why are only a few of us still sane? I get it now. It's not screening. It's about compatibility. Let's assume that eye is emitting some kind of special information stream. Only a perfect retina can receive and decode it. Because our eyes are defective, we just so happen to be unable to receive it. That's why we can't see it. The professor's explanation made perfect sense, but it terrified me even more. I asked the professor, then what about the whale song? The parts of the brain that process sight and sound are connected. If you can't see it, you naturally can't hear the translated sound. So that's how it works. At that moment, another, more terrifying question popped into my head. If they were to cure our nearsightedness, would we also be doomed? A dead silence fell over our group. Clearly, everyone had thought of the same thing. As soon as our vision is restored, we'll immediately see the eye, hear the whale language, and then become one of those brainless followers outside. We absolutely cannot let that happen. Deciphering the whale song is our only way to survive. We have to know what it's saying. I yelled in the group chat. I'm looking into it as fast as I can. Just give me some time. The situation outside has gone to hell. They've started enforcing mandatory vision correction in the city. All students have to get laser surgery, supposedly to make it easier to see the miracle. But in reality, it's a death warrant. They can't wait any longer. The Reaper's scythe is already at our necks, and we're the wheat that thinks it's awake. We could be cut down at any moment. That's when I turned to the smartest person among us. Professor, that song. Is there any other way to deal with it besides brute forcing a solution? We can jam it, since it's a broadcast. We can just override it with a more powerful signal. How do we do it? In theory, we just need to find the frequency and use the sky eye to broadcast noise at that point. The problem is, that requires the highest level of clearance for the sky eye. I'm just a junior engineer. I can't even get near that switch. Hearing that, an idea flashed in my mind. Who's the head of the sky eye project? It's academician Wang Hanlin, a top astrophysicist. Can he see that eye? I don't know, but he's locked himself in his office lately. He won't see anyone. My heart started racing, hiding away at a critical time like this. Unless, he can't see it either. He's also afraid. Joe Howe, help me contact him. I don't care what it takes. I have to see him. Later, with Joe Howe's help, I disguised myself as a maintenance worker and snuck into the observatory's core area. The place was so oppressive, it was hard to breathe. The hallways were empty, except for a few researchers who occasionally walked by. Their faces were a mix of fanaticism and exhaustion. Then Joe Howe led me to a heavy iron door. Academician Wang is inside. I've already told him you were coming. I said some equipment was broken. He agreed to see you. You only have 5 minutes. Xin Yuan, our lives are in your hands now. He patted my shoulder, a complicated look in his eyes. I took a deep breath and pushed the door open. The office was ridiculously large. A thin old man had his back to me. The screen was filled with incomprehensible data and star charts. What's broken? He didn't even turn his head. His voice sounded utterly exhausted. I locked the door behind me. He sensed something was wrong. Slowly, he turned around. His face was full of wrinkles and anxiety. A pair of thick glasses rested on the bridge of his nose. The moment I saw those glasses, my heart, which had been in my throat, dropped back into my stomach. Academician Wang, you can't see the eye in the sky either, right? He jolted violently, and a cold glint shot from his cloudy eyes. He stared at me intently. Who are you? A blind man, just like you, who can't see the miracle. A normal person who wants to find out the truth. He didn't speak for a long time. The air practically froze. After a while, the murderous look in his eyes finally faded. It was replaced by a deep, bottomless sorrow. He slumped back into his chair. Sit down. When did you find out? 3 months ago. I was earlier than you. I noticed it the moment the signal first appeared. He gave a bitter laugh. I asked the question I wanted to know the most. What on earth is that thing? Academician Wang pointed to a string of data on the screen. That is a civilization. A silicon-based civilization made of pure information. We call them the sowers. They are a seed carrying the information of an entire civilization, drifting through the universe, searching for suitable soil to sow. They plan to transform humanity into vessels suitable for them to inhabit. The eye and the whale song are their brainwashing tools. They assimilate our brains through sight and sound. Once the transformation is complete, our self-awareness will be gone. Our bodies will be completely taken over by them. Those who went missing were the first batch of vessels to be possessed. Academician Wang's voice couldn't stop trembling. Then what about us? What will they do with defective products like us, whose hardware is incompatible? We are the viruses in their plan. They will soon discover that there's soil in this world that can't be infected. What do you think they'll do then? Wang Hanlin stared at me, his gaze more serious than ever before. The answer was obvious. Elimination. The mandatory vision correction is just the first step of their purge. How much time do we have left? Hard to say. Maybe a month, or maybe tomorrow. I've tried to fight back, too. Tried my best to use the sky eye to send an interference signal, but they've set up layers of deadlocks. I can't get into the system at all. Their intelligence is off the charts. They've even infiltrated the global network. Every move I make, is predicted and cut off by them in advance. I also tried contacting the higher-ups, but those people have been brainwashed too. They think this is a shortcut for human evolution. That they're embracing a miracle. We've lost. Humanity is doomed. The most brilliant minds in the world have already kneeled before that eye. Seeing the light in his eyes gradually fade, I suddenly thought of my partners in our group. Zhang Wei, who's got gray hair from worrying about his son. That single mom nurse and the truck driver who's on the road all day long. They're so insignificant, so ordinary, but none of them ever thought of giving up. We haven't lost. My voice wasn't loud, but it made Academician Wang snap his head up. I stared intently into his eyes. You're a scientist. In your eyes, it's all data, probability, an insurmountable wall. I'm just an ordinary person. I just know my parents are waiting for me at home, and my buddies are counting on me. I can't lose, and I don't want to lose. Hope isn't something you calculate. It's something people make happen. A spark suddenly ignited in Academician Wang's cloudy eyes. He stared at me for a long time before finally speaking. Do you have a plan? You just said the sowers can predict your every move. So, what if we have a plan that even we don't know the outcome of? What do you mean? Create a program whose result even the designer can't predict. A logic virus. We don't need to interfere with the whale song. That's just being defensive. We need to reverse infect them. Go on the offensive. The more I spoke, the faster I got. My brain spinning so fast it felt like it was smoking. The sowers are an information-based civilization. Information is their strongest sword, but it's also their most fragile rib. We need to create an information virus and plant it in their minds. This thing has to be simple enough to spread quickly, and fundamental enough to bypass their firewall. What kind of information? The self. The sowers are a collective consciousness. There is only we, not I. What if we treat the concept of I as a virus and inject it into their system? Make every single one of their information units start wondering, who am I? Instead of, who are we? No matter how powerful an empire is, once it starts to fracture from within, it's not far from collapse. Academician Wang's breath caught when he heard this. He rushed to the whiteboard, the tip of his pen squeaking across the surface. It could work. In theory, it absolutely could work. Using a fundamental logic they can't comprehend. To tear down their entire structure. But, how do we get this idea to them? Using the sky eye, but not to transmit. To receive. We, defective, ones are the perfect firewall. We can look directly into their core data stream. Without being assimilated, I need you to disable all of Sky Eye's safety protocols. Point the receiver directly at the L2 point. I want you to pull down their most central data. Xin Yuan, are you crazy? Even if you won't be taken over. A data stream that massive could still blow your mind apart in an instant. It would turn you into a vegetable. That's why we need a translator. Your team will be the translators, responsible for breaking down the data and finding patterns. The programmer, Zhang Wei, will be responsible for writing the virus, and I'll be the data cable. I will see, I will listen, and then I will tell them about me. I have to turn myself into an information relay station. On one side, a flood that can destroy a civilization. On the other, humanity's final counterattack. If we win, we live. If we lose, I'll be turned to ash. Academician Wang looked at me. His eyes filled with conflict. Xin Yuan, do you have any idea what this means? Your chances of survival are basically, I know. But humanity's chances of survival will no longer be zero. He fell silent. After a long moment, he picked up the red phone on his desk. He dialed a number. Notify all personnel still on duty to assemble in the main control room. Putting down the phone, he solemnly extended his hand to me. Everyone in the Rat Pack, welcome to the Sky Eye. The final battle has begun. After that, 12 people gathered at the Sky Eye. There were the people from the observatory who hadn't been brainwashed, plus Zhou Hao and me. And Zhang Wei and his team, connected remotely. Our small underground resistance group was finally assembled. Academician Wang briefly explained the plan. When he mentioned that someone would have to risk their life to handle the data stream, the whole room fell deathly silent. Everyone looked at me. Their eyes held admiration, sympathy, and also fear. I'll do it. A young man with thick glasses stood up. My mind works fast. I should be able to last a little longer. I can do it, too. A middle-aged woman also stood up. I handle system backups. I'm more familiar with the process than anyone. Count me in. One voice after another rang out. No one isn't afraid of dying, but no one wants to just wait for death. They were just choosing a more dignified way to die. Looking at them, my eyes started to burn. This is humanity, as fragile as a piece of paper, yet always able, in the darkest of times, to shine with the brightest light. No, I stopped them. It was my idea. I have to be the one to do it. I looked toward Academician Wang. He nodded at me. No more arguing. Xin Yuan will do it. And with that, no one said another word. Everyone started working frantically. Zhou Hao and the engineers took the Sky Eyes. signal and routed it directly to the isolation chamber. Academician Wang and his students were building a data model. Zhang Wei was mobilizing all the computing power he could get to write the Trojan horse program, while I was taken into the isolation chamber. The walls were covered with all kinds of sensors. In the middle of the room was an ice-cold metal recliner. I lay down on it. The chill from my back seeped straight into my bones. A nurse from the Rat Pack came over and began placing electrode pads on my head. Her hands were very steady, but her eyes wouldn't stop shaking. Xin Yuan, he opened his mouth, but nothing came out. Take good care of your daughter. I smiled at him. He nodded desperately, and tears began to fall. The door to the isolation chamber closed, and the world was instantly plunged into darkness. There was only the sound of my heartbeat. Xin Yuan, can you hear me? Academician Wang's voice came through. I can hear you very clearly. The data will connect in 3 minutes. Remember, you don't need to understand everything you see. Just hold on to yourself. Keep telling yourself who you are, and where you came from. Your emotions will travel along the signal and slap them right in the face. Understood. Academician Wang's voice paused for a moment, then continued with a slight tremor. If you really can't hold on, just think of the person you love the most. I closed my eyes, and gently breathed out 2 words. Let's begin. Commencing connection countdown. My heart was beating so fast it felt like it would explode. 3, 2, 1. The moment it connected, I felt the entire universe smash into the top of my skull. It wasn't a sound, and it wasn't an image. It was an indescribable flood of information. Billions of years of stellar evolution, the birth and death of civilizations. How black holes devour, how stars explode. Everything was compressed into an infinitely large package and violently forced into my consciousness. My body began to convulse violently. Hot steam billowed from my eyes and nose. The alarms in the main control room were piercing my eardrums. Warning. Vital signs critical. Brainwave overload. He can't hold on much longer. Hold on, Xin Yuan. Hold on to who you are. Academician Wang was roaring from outside, but I couldn't hear him at all. My consciousness was being completely dissolved by this ocean of information. I could feel myself disappearing. Who am I? Am I a grain of sand? Or that beam of light? Or are we? Just as my consciousness was about to fade completely, a single thought grabbed onto me like a lifeline and held me fast. My name is Xin Yuan. My mom's braised pork is the best in the entire world. I hate cilantro more than anything in my life. I have a crush on a girl at my company named Yue. Even though she's gone, I'm actually terrified of ghosts. I can't even turn off the lights when I watch horror movies. I am Xin Yuan. I used every ounce of my strength, screaming my own name into the torrent of data. My brainwaves were like a small pebble, creating ripples on the surface of a dead silent lake. A pathetically small ripple. Wait, there's a reaction. Zhang Wei's voice exploded over the comms. The sower's core code is in chaos. Xin Yuan, keep going, don't stop. I started to frantically recall my past 30 years. The first time I wore a backpack to school. The first time I got into a fight and came home bruised. First time I had my heart broken and cried like a baby. The first time I felt so smug getting my first paycheck. All those fragmented scenes, filled with joy, anger, and sorrow. Every single scene was a piece that made up the person, Xin Yuan. I took all of these fragments and hurled them all into that ocean of information. The first version of the virus is ready. Force injecting now. Zhang Wei was shouting frantically on the other end. That sea of information began to churn violently. I saw countless points of light flickering within the collective consciousness. They were trembling, hesitating. Injection successful. They're analyzing our virus. Start deploying version 2. Enhance the emotion module. Pack all of humanity's love, hate, and complex emotions into it. Outside the isolation chamber, no one dared to even breathe. On the screen, the waterfall of data began to fragment and lag. It was like sand had been poured into a precision watch. And I was the grittiest grain of that sand. My consciousness was about to fall apart, and my body had reached its limit. But I could feel the sower's gaze. For the first time, it shifted from the 7 billion people of the world and focused squarely on me. It was a cold, disdainful, and furious stare. They had found me, the virus, and then they did something I never expected. They cut the transmission from the sky eye. All the screens in the control room instantly went black. What's going on? We've lost the signal. Did they run away? I knew they hadn't run. They were enraged by the very concept of me. A god, high and mighty, had been spat on by an ant. It wanted to come down and crush this ant with its own hands. In reality, the sky changed. It was no longer a sky that only the believers could see. Countless dark cracks spread across the atmosphere. Behind the cracks was a squirming, living light. Then, an impossibly huge eye opened within the cracks. The moment it opened, fear seized everyone's heart like icy claws. On the streets, the devout believers were so scared their faces turned ashen. They collapsed to the ground, trembling uncontrollably. They had finally seen the true face of their god. But it wasn't mercy, it was a death sentence. He's here. Academician Wang stared out the window, muttering to himself, we did it. We used the virus of self to force God from its higher dimension down into this broken reality. To eliminate me, the source, it chose to descend in a way we could comprehend. But that also means it's now within our range. All personnel, prepare to execute the dust plan. Academician Wang gave the final, do-or-die command into the microphone. The dust plan was our last resort, our final card to play. The moment that I appeared, Academician Wang contacted every nuclear-armed nation on the planet. Looking at the apocalyptic scene in the sky, the world leaders reached a consensus for the first time. Rather than have our consciousnesses drained and be used as vessels, it's better to take this god down with us in the explosion. Thousands of nuclear warheads around the world were instantly armed. Their target wasn't any single country. It was the giant eye above us, scrutinizing the earth. Xin Yuan, are you still alive? Zhou Hao yelled from outside the isolation pod. Can't die yet, I replied weakly. The pod door was pried open. Several people clumsily carried me out. Through the thick glass, I glanced at the eye. The pressure was so heavy I couldn't breathe. It was scanning the ground. It's looking for me. Do we have a lock? Academician Wang asked. Report. All global launch units have locked on. What's it doing? We saw the giant eye's pupil contracting. A fiery pillar of light erupted, shooting straight for the ground. It didn't hit a city. It went straight for the South Pole. The Antarctic ice sheet is melting like crazy. Sea levels are projected to rise 60 meters within the hour. It wants to drown us. Is this what a high and mighty god is like? It can't even be bothered to crush a virus, so it's formatting the whole hard drive instead. Just then, a fierce look flashed in Academician Wang's eyes. Launch. We can't wait any longer. Wait, I suddenly roared. Everyone froze and stared at me. Can't launch now. It hasn't fully materialized yet. Physical attacks are useless, but since it can be provoked, that means it has emotions. I stared intently at the giant eye outside the window. And then, a crazy plan formed in my mind. What it wants most right now is to drag me out, and then erase me in front of everyone to show off its divine power. I'm going to meet it. You're insane. Zhou Hao grabbed me. If you go out there now, you'll be vaporized in an instant. I turned my head to look at Wang Hanlin. Won't let me die that quickly. Academician Wang, help me send a message. Use the Sky Eye to tell it my coordinates. And while you're at it, throw in a little taunt. Is that all you've got? Academician Wang understood what I meant. I have to provoke it completely, make it fully materialize just for the sake of humiliating me. Only then can the nukes send it to hell. You'll die, Xin Yuan. Academician Wang's voice was trembling. Someone has to be the one to close that door. Finally, Academician Wang walked to the control console and transmitted the message into the sky via the Sky Eye. Almost instantly, that eye locked onto our mountain. Its eye turned blood red. The entire sky looked as if it was steeped in blood. Its body began to squeeze out of the rift, piece by piece. An unpredictable form twisted from light and energy. It's descending. Everyone, evacuate to the underground shelter immediately. Academician Wang gave the final order. The personnel in the main control room began to retreat. Zhou Hao walked up to me and shoved a gun into my hand. Don't let it take you alive. I nodded. I gripped the gun tightly. In the end, only Academician Wang and I were left in the room. Academician Wang, you should go, too. He said, I have to stay to confirm the launch. Someone has to press that button. We looked at each other and smiled. Then, I walked out onto the platform. The monster in the sky had already descended halfway. Its consciousness pierced my mind like a needle, rummaging through my memories. Then, a voice exploded directly in my head. You insignificant virus, you dare to piss me off? I raised my gun and aimed at the monster in the sky. This was it. Then get down here. With a thunderous crash, that behemoth passed through the rift. In that instant, the entire world shook like a sieve. It had fully descended, becoming a physical body that could be killed. Just then, Academician Wang's voice came through my earpiece. Goodbye, Xin Yuan. Goodbye, world. He pressed the red button. I closed my eyes, waiting to be burned to ash by thousands of nuclear warheads. Waiting to become cosmic dust along with that god. After a blinding flash of white light, I was surprised to find that I wasn't dead. I then realized I was floating in midair. My body was no longer made of flesh, but was a translucent energy form. Looking down, I saw a bottomless crater. The sower had also been blasted to pieces. Its remains turned into a golden rain that filled the sky. This golden rain slowly drifted towards me, and then was slowly absorbed into my body. But I didn't feel any pain at all. I even felt a little full. At that moment, a thought popped into my head. Could it be that I'm absorbing it? I understood. The nukes had destroyed its physical body, but they couldn't extinguish its informational essence. It shattered into code, and I became its only vessel. In that moment of nuclear detonation, it and I became one. I inherited everything from it, but I corrupted its collective with my own sense of self. I was still Xin Yuan, but I was also more than just Xin Yuan. I waved my hand, and my body turned back into flesh and blood. Landing on the ground, I had become the new sower. I could see the entire globe and hear every single person's heartbeat. The sea levels were receding. Power was being restored. Survivors crawled out from the ruins, staring blankly at the sky. They thought the god had left, leaving this whole mess behind. But the followers of the Great Eye were completely dumbfounded. Their god was well and truly dead. Then, with a single thought, I returned to the city where I lived, walking along the ruined streets. I watched my neighbors clearing rubble to save people. My parents were in there too, busy and drenched in sweat. Didn't go over to them. I just watched quietly from a distance. I went to Zhang Wei's house and saw his wife and child sobbing in each other's arms. I went to the nurse's house and saw his daughter hugging her doll, waiting for her mommy. They gave their lives for tomorrow, but a tomorrow that they would never be in. I flew back up to the sky, looking down at this broken blue marble. What should I do? Become a savior and have people worship me? How would that be any different from the last one? I finally understood Academician Wang's last words. Someone has to close the door. He closed the door on its arrival. And I have to close the door on miracles. Humanity doesn't need gods. Humanity only needs to rely on itself. I focused my will. I erased all traces of the sower, and while I was at it, deleted all records of Xin Yuan. My parents will forget they ever had a son, and go on to live a quiet, ordinary life. After doing all this, I took one last look at my hometown. Then I flew into the depths of space. I would finish the job the sower couldn't. I'm going to find the other targeted civilizations in the universe. I'm going to spread this virus called self across the entire cosmos. I don't know what the future holds. I only know that my name is Xin Yuan. I am also a virus, but now, that's all I am. In the days that followed, I shuttled between planets like a beam of light. I have completely mastered the energy of the cedars. At this point, I can sense any movement from millions of kilometers away. I can decipher the hidden signals in cosmic rays, but I've always stayed well hidden. I was afraid other cedars might be looking for a traitor like me. Right then, the star map in my mind gave me a warning. Warning. Abnormal signal detected. Coordinates. Edge of the Orion constellation. Distance. 1.2 light years. Seating suitability at 92%. So I condensed myself into a beam of light and flew over. Along the way, I began to wonder. What kind of civilization would it be? Would they treat the cedars as a divine sign? Or would they resist with all their might? Moments later, I arrived on the outskirts of the planet. It was a purple planet. I tried to pierce through the cloud layer to look down. I saw many spiral towers standing on the land. A crystal was embedded at the tip of each spire. These crystals were constantly emitting energy towards the sky, which formed a protective shield. But now, it was about to shatter, and an information cloud was floating in the sky, slowly devouring the planet, bit by bit. I took a quick scan. The data showed assimilation was at 37%. In 3 days, the planet would be completely lost. Then I looked at the creatures guarding the base of the towers. They were tightly gripping energy guns. Their eyes were filled with terror, yet not a single one retreated. As I looked at them, it was like seeing my former self and my brothers. Just then, the assimilation unit outside the atmosphere locked onto my position. It stopped its assault on the shield and then, like a bolt of lightning, it charged at me. Unknown cedar unit detected. Abnormal energy fluctuations. Assessed as virus carrier. Initiating extermination program. The cold, robotic voice exploded directly in my mind. At the same time, the virus inside my body seemed extremely excited. I took my memory fragments in. The cedar's data, twisted them together, and formed a golden stream of information to ram into it. Two forces were locked in a desperate struggle outside the atmosphere. The enemy's assimilation wave tried to swallow my consciousness, but my virus, like a fast-growing vine, bored its way inside by following its frequency. Then, the assimilation units will begin to fight itself. It wanted to sacrifice a part of itself to survive, by cutting off the infected data, but my virus had already drilled deep into its body, so its information stream began to attack itself. What was once a monolithic collective consciousness instantly collapsed. Then, it shattered into a sky full of starlight and vanished into the cosmos. I retracted my consciousness and let out a ragged breath. Who is that in the sky? Just then, an old and wary voice came through as a sound wave. I glanced down and saw that on top of the highest spiral tower of the purple planet. There was an old man with a golden beard, craning his neck to stare at me. I immediately teleported and landed on the top of the tower. The old man immediately raised the energy gun in his hand. Are you an accomplice of that? I, or some messenger from somewhere? I am neither an accomplice, nor a messenger, but I can help you kill. Those monsters who want to brainwash you. A flicker of doubt crossed the old man's eyes. He sized me up for a good while before slowly putting his gun down. I am Mork, the high priest of the Kalan people. That eye has been tormenting us for half a year. The defensive shield is about to give out. Can you really help us? I already crushed one of their smaller units. But that's just the beginning, I said, looking at Mork with a serious expression. Besides, the Cedars won't just send one. We need to hurry up and destroy their nest. We have to completely sever this damned assimilation signal. When Mork heard this, he shook his head in despair. We've tried countless times. The Sower's core is hiding near the red dwarf's orbit. The energy field there is too powerful. We simply can't get near it. I'll go, I declared without a hint of hesitation. But I'm going to need your help. I need to know everything about these monsters. And also, your technique for controlling psychic energy. Your shield might just be able to help me. Avoid the Sower's radar. Mork stared at me, the muscles in his face twitching. Finally, he gritted his teeth. I'll trust you. I'm putting the entire future of the Kalong clan in your hands. All our warriors are yours to command. With that said, Mork led me into the command center in the high tower. It was filled with shimmering crystals. Streams of data flowed rapidly. A few Kalongs were tending to the machines. Their faces clouded with worry. When they saw me walk in, they all froze, their eyes a mixture of curiosity and fear. This is Xin Yuan. He's here to help us kill the Sky Eye. Mork introduced me briefly, then turned back to me. What do you want to know? Don't hesitate to ask. When did the Sky Eye first appear? Is there anything unusual about its signal? Mork thought for a moment, then sighed. It first appeared about half a year ago. Our telescopes initially picked up a strange signal. At first, it was just a faint disturbance. Everyone said it was the voice of a god. They worshipped it frantically. Then, an eye opened in the sky. Any of our people who stared at it were turned into puppets. I listened, thinking it over. This scenario is almost identical to what happened on Earth. The only difference is that the Kalongs can wield psychic energy. They can raise shields and put up a real fight, which is why they haven't been completely wiped out yet. I'll need your best warriors to come with me. When I get close to the core, they'll need to use their psychic energy to mask my presence, I told Mork. Mork nodded. I'll go pick 10 of our strongest warriors. When do we move out? The sooner, the better. Your shield will only hold for 3 more days, at best. We have to act fast. Over the next 2 days, I went through a crash course. Learning how to use the Kalong's psychic energy and upgrading the virus within my body. Meanwhile, those 10 warriors weren't idle. They trained relentlessly under Mork's guidance. They needed to combine their psychic energy into a single force to help me block any scans. On the day of our departure, Mork came to see us off himself. Xin Yuan, the fate of the Kalong clan rests entirely on you. I didn't say anything, just glanced at the 10 warriors. Let's go. The 10 of them nodded in unison, and instantly, their psychic energy flared out, wrapping around me, concealing me completely. Then, we shot off like a beam of light toward the red dwarf. In the shadow of the planet, I finally saw the massive thing. It was a giant, pitch-black sphere, endlessly blasting out waves of assimilation. As if it wanted to swallow the planet whole, I made a hand gesture, signaling the warriors to push harder as we slowly crept forward. Suddenly, it hurled a massive energy wave at us, trying to crush us. Under the psychic shield, we managed to push through the pressure. Now's our chance, I roared. The virus inside me turned into a golden light, like a sharp dagger. It pierced through the outer defenses and desperately burrowed its way toward the core. Warning. Virus intrusion. Activating maximum defense protocol. The Sowers went completely insane, its energy erupting outwards like a tsunami. It wanted to swat us like flies. The 10 warriors' faces turned as white as paper. The shield was shaking like a plastic bag in a storm. While I was hacking the heck out of its system, I was also diverting energy to help my brothers stabilize the shield. The virus was spreading rapidly inside it. Sower's code was turning into a garbled mess, and just then, the Sower fired a beam of white light, blasting it directly onto our shield. The warriors' shields shattered in an instant. They fell like kites with their strings cut. My eyes turned bloodshot. I wanted to dive down and catch them, but I was trapped by its energy. A fire of rage instantly blazed inside me. The virus inside me went berserk, charging straight into the Sower's very core. It became desperate. It tried to self-destruct. It wanted to take me down with it. I hardened my resolve. I injected all of the virus into it, then sprinted toward the purple star without looking back. A second later, the Sower exploded behind me. The shockwave sent me flying. I felt like my energy was almost completely drained, and my head felt incredibly heavy. When I opened my eyes again, I found myself lying on a field of purple grass. Moke and a few others were pacing around anxiously. When they saw I was awake, everyone was ecstatic. Xin Yuan, you're finally awake. Moke's hands were shaking with excitement. The sower is gone. We survived. I struggled to sit up. What about the warriors? Moke lowered his head. They didn't make it back. My heart sank. I was filled with guilt. If they weren't protecting me, they might have survived. Moke patted my shoulder. Don't blame yourself. They were fighting for the future of the Kalong people. They are true heroes. In the days that followed, I recovered on the Purple Star. Everyone treated me like a living god. People came to the base of the tower every day to worship me. But I didn't feel worthy. The credit belongs to all of us. The brothers who sacrificed themselves are the true saviors. Moke told me many stories. The Kalong people have lived here for 1,000,000 years. They have a highly developed psionic civilization. They had traveled to other planets, but had never encountered a sower before. Qin Yuan, where do you plan to go from here? Moke asked me. I'm going to save the next civilization. The sowers have been plaguing the universe for years. There must be countless other victims. I will spread this ego virus throughout the universe, and destroy their entire operation. Moke nodded. He took a purple crystal from his pocket. This is our psionic core. It can help you focus your energy and also decrypt alien signals. I hope it will be useful to you. I took the crystal. Thank you, Moke. I could see the reluctance to let me go in Moke's eyes. The Kalong will always be your home. I nodded. I transformed back into light and left the Purple Star, looking back at the small purple sphere behind me. I swore that I would eradicate the sowers, root and stem, so that every civilization could determine its own destiny. A few days later, I arrived in the skies of another planet. The Crystal Star. The entire planet looked like it was made of diamonds. It was so bright it hurt my eyes. But the data showed, the Crystal Star was already 60% conquered, about to be harvested by the sowers at any moment. But it wasn't until I entered the planet's interior that I discovered how lifeless this place was. There was no sign of life at all, just countless glittering buildings jutting out from the ground. Most of the crystal people had already become puppets, so I extended my consciousness deep underground. I saw countless crystal people standing like posts. Their consciousness had been siphoned into the large tower in the center. The top of the tower emitted a fairy tale-like light that illuminated the entire star. The sower's core was in there. So, I teleported in front of the large tower. The soulless crystal people around me pounced as soon as they saw me. I countered by pumping a wave of virus into their brains. The infected crystal people first froze, then began to tremble violently. This was their self-awareness reawakening. I seized this opportunity, rushed to the top of the tower, and then shoved all of the virus inside. The sower core's energy instantly descended into chaos. The light filling the sky began to fade. The crystal tower shook as if in an earthquake. It was trying to forcibly drain the souls of all the crystal people. I could hear countless souls screaming. They were struggling desperately, trying to break free from the sower's chains. I let out a furious roar, and completely detonated the sower core, which worked in tandem with the self-awareness virus, frantically. Reawakening the siphoned souls, more and more of the crystal people were finding themselves again. They broke free from the sower's restraints and desperately rushed out of the tower. Finally, the sower's core code completely collapsed. With a great rumble, the entire crystal tower shattered into dust all over the ground. I was just about to breathe a sigh of relief, when the data inside my body suddenly started jumping like crazy. A bone-chilling voice pierced my mind. Iris Carrier, you have ruined our plans twice now. The sower mothership is about to arrive. Initiating ultimate purge protocol. I looked up at the sky. In the next second, a shadow blotted out the light, and covered the entire crystal star. In its very center was a giant eye, exactly like the one I had seen before. I stared fixedly at the mothership in the sky. If I back down now, all the people of the crystal star will be finished. Just then, an elder of the crystal star approached me. You have to leave, quickly. That ship is too powerful. We are no match for it. You have to survive so you can bring the spark of hope to other civilizations. I'm not leaving. I have to stop them. Otherwise, they'll strip this entire universe bare sooner or later. Hearing this, the elder looked at me with a face full of admiration. Then we crystal people will risk our lives to help you. Our technology might be able to interfere with that giant ship's signal. I nodded. Go and activate all the energy towers. Interfere with it with everything you've got. I'll go for its heart. I'll take out its engine room. Once the power is out, it'll be nothing but a floating coffin. The elder didn't hesitate. He led his people toward the various energy towers, while I shot forward like a beam of light. Straight for the sower mothership. The mothership's defenses were like an iron fortress. Patrol ships were everywhere. I transformed myself into a piece of scrambled data, and snuck up to the shield. The mothership's AI reacted instantly, immediately reinforced the shield with several more layers. I tried to inject the virus, but the energy was too dense. I couldn't pierce it. Just at that moment, all the energy towers on the crystal star lit up. A purple energy wave, like a tsunami, slammed into the main ship. The shield finally flickered. This was my chance. I risked everything, my very life, and turned my self-virus into a great, shimmering golden sword. Pierced through the shield and charged inside. The inside of the main ship was filled with dense streams of data, like a giant neural network. Countless brainwashed aliens were bustling about like zombies. They're all slaves of the sowers. You virus, how dare you walk right into my trap? The wheel of the main ship thundered with rage. Energy rays swept over me like a torrential downpour, and the brainwashed creatures swarmed me like madmen. I twisted and dodged, injecting these slaves with my virus whenever I got the chance. Finally, I burst into the power core. There, I saw a massive energy sphere. It was the heart of the main ship. The instant it spotted me, countless beams of energy shot my way. Dodged for my life, trying to inject my virus into that core. But its defenses were airtight. My virus couldn't penetrate it. I had to go all in. I steeled myself. So, I completely merged my own consciousness with the self-virus. In that moment, I felt my physical body disappear. I had become a string of the purest, deadliest code. With a crash, I slammed into the core. A split second later, a piercing alarm blared throughout the main ship. Warning. Core code compromised. Initiating self-destruct sequence. Countdown. 10 minutes. I worked faster, gnawing away at the core. The core code became a chaotic mess, and the energy levels fluctuated wildly. With only 1 minute left on the countdown, the core code completely collapsed. But the self-destruct sequence didn't stop. I tried to pull my consciousness out of the core, only to find I had already merged with it. Is this how it ends? I murmured. As I said it, the main ship exploded in the sky with a deafening roar. My consciousness scattered with it, turning into starlight, drifting into every information stream in the universe. Though I was gone, the little spark I left behind will burn forever. The universe is still the same quiet wasteland. But on this wasteland, countless civilizations are thriving, full of life. They no longer have to fear an eye suddenly opening in the sky. And as for me, my journey's end, that blind man I once was, will forever remain in this ocean of information. Silently watching over this world,